Okay. All right, so let me just continue then. And no worries, we will have plenty of opportunity to review this, okay? All right. So remember, it's like recalling those early facts like ABCs, right? All the letters of the alphabet. I bet if I asked any one of you, you can tell me the letters of the alphabet. That's a recall ability, right? So whenever we say, what is your name? That's a recall ability. Where is your favorite place? You all were doing recall during the introduction when I asked you, what's your favorite place? So your brain was at that 1 bar level because it was something you experienced, okay? And it's not a bad thing for your brain to be at the 1 bar level. It has to start there in order for you to build your critical thinking skills. So it's a step that cannot be missed, okay? But we don't want to stay there. We don't want to always stay in the recall spectrum. To build critical thinking skills, we have to move forward. Then we build an understanding. So if you remember your ABCs, now we can have an understanding that these letters have sounds associated with them. And these sounds, when put together, um, create syllables that are words, etc. And the letters string together make words, and words will make, sentences, etc. And more sentences can lead to paragraphs. So we're starting to build an understanding. So we're describing, we're explaining, we are predicting. When you hear these keywords, you're at that 2 bar level. So hopefully this is giving you a better example. Then when we apply it, now it's time to apply in a new way. You're getting higher with your critical thinking skills, getting to that critical thinking level by application, and that means doing things that require you to manipulate, to organize, to sort, and to solve, right? So classification, putting things into bucket. I may say, now it's time for you to apply those alphabets, sort them by vowels and sort them by consonants. How many vowels do we have in English? How many consonant sounds do we have? See, you're sorting them. And then can you come up with words that have 2 vowels and 3 consonants? What words would that be? So now you're doing manipulation, organization, you're doing multiple skills at the same time, all related to apply or application. To go higher in our critical thinking skills, we have analysis. That is to examine, compare, and contrast 2 different things. So we talked about Gabby liking the cheesecake and Gabby liking the chocolate cake rather, and then someone else having cheesecake as their favorite food. So that was Madison Edwards, I believe, who said she likes the cheesecake. So we would compare and have them compare and contrast. What's the difference between them? Okay, can one be frozen, or what's the ingredients that make up the cheesecake versus the chocolate cake? When you start investigating and questioning, like I would ask, what's the recipe? Then I compare the ingredients. What ingredients are the same? Do they both use flour? Do they both use egg? Do they both use sugar? Maybe, maybe not, right? So that type of activity is what we call analysis. And here you're at 2/3 of your brain power when we're striving to become a better critical thinker. Then we want to evaluate. We want to go higher in our thinking, and we're almost there at the top of that pyramid that we talked about when we're thinking of the pyramid and going higher and higher and higher. We have evaluate. Now, the evaluation comes into play when there's something you have to do with evidence-based information. Like if you want to defend your opinion on something. So we can have an activity where we have 2 students maybe the pizza lovers, maybe Christian and Darius, right? And I know there were more of you that love pizza. I love pizza too. And so we may have a debate flavor, and you would have to prove it, you know, prove that this is the favorite pizza flavor. You can't just say it's because I like it. That's not enough evidence. So when we get into activities like that, that's what we talk about with evaluation. You have to justify your opinion and your decisions, okay? Defend it with facts, with data, okay? Or even recommendations from experts, so to speak. Maybe it was a food critic or something like that who was deemed an expert or something. Now, that's 5 bars of brain power. Now we get to 6 bars of brain power. We are at the top of our critical thinking skills. Between create and definitely evaluate, you are there. You are a critical thinker. You're tapping into your most highest point of thinking, okay? Now, as scholars, as students, as learners, young and old, we want to strive to get as often as we can to this part of thinking, okay? These two, evaluate and create. So even with the protesting that's going on around the country and the world regarding social justice, we have to evaluate. We can't just look at the TV screen and make judgment as to what led up to the protests. You know, who is George Floyd and what happened? So you have to have some facts, okay? Now, when we get to the creativity mode, we are using all of our bars of brain power. And the keywords to remember in terms of the actions that you will be doing, you will be building, constructing, create, design, develop. So let's say you want to take some cardboard boxes that you have left over at home and you want to build an indoor tent, right? Because we've been inside for a minute, and you want to build a tent, or you want to build like a house for your pet, right? So when you're constructing and building, that's when you're tapping into the highest part of your critical thinking ability. So make sure the next time you want to build, design, create, that you can inform your parents when they're like, oh, don't do that. You can say, well, I'm exercising my critical thinking skills. And when I do things like build and I create and I design and I improve things, make it better, I am tapping into my critical thinking skills. So you have to know when this occurs, because if you don't know when it occurs, you'll never know when you reach it. And so that's why we're doing this overview, is to let you know when and how you can elevate your critical thinking skills, because you are empowered to do so. You don't have to wait for a teacher to say, now open up your brain and start thinking critically. It doesn't work that way. You walk around with your brain all day, every day, okay? This is the blueprint on how you build critical thinkers, strong critical thinkers. So now that you have the blueprint, you want to keep in mind with the exercises that we're about to embark on throughout the course of this summer, where you're at on the critical thinking spectrum, okay? Where you're at on the critical thinking spectrum. So we will be looking at each and every one of these. And again,